In 2120, Mother Earth is expecting.
It's time to talk about Alien Earth. Most of you already know how I feel about the Predator franchise, but honestly, I'm pretty optimistic about this one. I've enjoyed all the teasers and trailers. The concepts they're bringing in are really interesting. Of course, I've got a few concerns too, which I'll get into a bit later. Before we dive in though, if you're new here, please drop a like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. It helps me out massively, as always. So let's get into the plot. From what we know, Weyland crashes a ship straight into Prodigy City on Earth, and yeah, it's pretty clear this is an act of full-on corporate warfare. Weyland-Yutani has always been ruthless. This isn't just about competition anymore. Prodigy has advanced way beyond them, especially with their cyborg technology, while Weyland is still relying on synthetics. That kind of tech advantage could flip the entire power dynamic, and Weyland clearly isn't willing to risk that. But this isn't just about knocking Prodigy down a peg. Weyland seems to want to completely erase them, destroy their infrastructure, wipe out their research, take out their leadership, eliminate the entire threat altogether. And how do they do it? They send a ship carrying 5 deadly alien creatures that they've apparently collected from across the universe.
This ship collected 5 different life forms from the darkest corners of the universe,
unleashing absolute chaos right in Prodigy's backyard. It's a brutal, over-the-top plan, but one that fits perfectly within the world of Alien. On the surface, the sabotage seems straightforward. Crash the ship, release the monsters, let them do the dirty work. But what really interests me is how this plays out. How far will Weyland go to make sure Prodigy is wiped out? Will they just sit back and watch? Or do they have agents and contingency plans in place to guarantee success? Knowing Weyland, I wouldn't be surprised if they're monitoring every moment, making sure nothing survives. On Prodigy's side, I'm curious to see how prepared they are for something like this. They've got advanced tech, private military, defense drones, and their cyborgs, which could play a huge role in trying to contain the situation. But are they ready for an attack this extreme? Do they even understand the kind of creatures being unleashed on them? And what sort of fail-safes, if any, do they have? This kind of corporate warfare takes things to a whole new level. Not just financial sabotage, but biological and technological destruction. And honestly, that's one of the coolest aspects of what Alien Earth seems to be setting up. Now, about the creatures themselves, it's not just the classic Xenomorphs. We're getting a mix of monsters. One in particular looks terrifying. Apparently it removes people's eyes and controls their bodies. Of course, we've also got the familiar alien eggs, facehuggers, and full-grown Xenomorphs. In one teaser, we even see this giant bug-like creature smashing into an airlock door, so it looks like we're getting some proper sci-fi monsters here, which adds a fresh layer while still keeping that classic alien horror vibe. And honestly, from what I've seen so far, I really like the creature designs and the overall aesthetic. The marketing's been on point. It's definitely kept me hyped. I'm also looking forward to seeing how these creatures interact with Prodigy's cyborgs and Weyland's synthetics. Historically, Xenomorphs tend to ignore non-organic beings since they can't be used as hosts. But with this mix of new creatures, who knows? We might see some interesting twists in that dynamic. Now, I've got a sneaky suspicion that Earth, and Prodigy City especially, is headed for complete disaster. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they're forced to actually rely on the Xenomorphs to take out some of the other monsters. How that happens, I don't know, but it's a theory I'll be keeping my eye on. Overall though, I'm really liking what I'm seeing. The concept is solid, and there's a ton of potential here. But I want to hear your thoughts too. Am I way off? Let me know in the comments. Now let's talk about my main concerns. Since this is set just 2 years before the original Alien, there's a real risk of messing with established lore. Personally, I hate when franchises get lazy with canon, but if it's well written, sticks to the universe's rules, and keeps the Xenomorphs as the primary threat, I can forgive a bit of timeline bending. What I don't want is the Jurassic Park problem, where every new entry introduces a bigger, badder monster just for the sake of it. That kind of unnecessary escalation would really ruin it for me. I also assume Weyland ultimately succeeds in wiping out Prodigy, since they're never mentioned in later films. The writers will have to handle that carefully. Same goes for Prodigy's advanced tech. Their cyborgs would need to be destroyed or lost, because we definitely don't see anything like that later in the timeline. It'll take some tight writing to avoid a bunch of plot holes. One of the trickiest parts will be explaining how aliens ran loose on Earth just 2 years before Alien, and yet nobody seems to know about it later. Not just Xenomorphs, but all these other creatures too. The more elements you introduce, the harder it gets to make the timeline make sense. That said, I'm still willing to give Noah Hawley a chance. He's a great storyteller, and if anyone can pull this off, it might be him. But what do you think? How will Weyland actually defeat Prodigy? What happens to the tech? How do they keep this secret from the rest of humanity? And why does the technology seem to take a step backwards in the future? Maybe they've got answers. We'll see. In short, this looks sick and I'm super excited, but I really don't want lazy writing that breaks the timeline and makes no sense within the universe. That's my biggest worry right now. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and I'll catch you in the next one.